we're going to a 7-figure Bitcoin price. That's what's happening. And now the numbers are just so big. The amount of cash, the amount of assets that are in TradFi are so big. And I think people in Bitcoin fail to see this.
Bitcoin is on track for a massive price surge, and it's closer than many realize. This is the latest prediction from seasoned investor and Wall Street veteran Fred Krueger, who believes that a significant influx of funds from traditional finance could drive Bitcoin to historic highs. Krueger asserts that an enormous amount of wealth is currently flowing into Bitcoin, and many are unaware of just how large this movement is. With more institutions getting involved, he predicts this financial tidal wave could push Bitcoin to levels never seen before. Stay tuned until the end, as Fred Krueger shares why Bitcoin is poised for a skyrocket and what it means for investors.
Hi guys, hope to see you guys at Dubai Token 2049. We have exclusive 10% off the limited super early bird tickets. Click the link below. This pass will grant you access to speaking sessions, networking app, exhibition hall, daily networking drinks, and also included breakfast, lunch, and coffee breaks, all included the package. I love to see everyone there. Peace out.
This is the math that I think is really important. You have $100 trillion of assets in TradFi and $100 billion worth of assets that are deployed in a form that can be consumed by TradFi. 100 billion. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's 1/10 of 1%.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what's the chance that 1/10 of 1% goes to 1%? It is 100% chance that we are going to go from 1/10 of 1% to 1%. And we'll probably go from 1% to 5% ultimately, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe more. Well, that's a 10x in terms of money invested into this thing.
Yeah.
That means that Bitcoin price is going to go up 40x, roughly. Right? We're going to go from 1 trillion to 41 trillion in terms of market cap, which is to say about $2 million per Bitcoin. So you can see that the sheer math is just amazing, right? And what did I not include in that? The rest of the world. Right. I didn't include China. I didn't include Europe. I didn't include any of that. I didn't include real estate. I didn't, so the numbers are just so big. The amount of cash, the amount of assets that are in TradFi are so big. And I think people in Bitcoin fail to see this. They're not used to these numbers. They haven't really analyzed these numbers. There's a tsunami of cash, a tsunami of money that will want to get into this asset, right? The big story here is asset allocation and just the size of the flows that we're looking at here. I think it's just amazing. And I think Bitcoiners they don't understand how big it is. They really don't. They just, and it's, to give you another example, there's $6 trillion in money markets sitting out there. $6 trillion.
That's crazy.
I mean, could we have 20% of that goes into Bitcoin? Sure. Why not? Without even a drop that comes from real estate or the QQQs or anything else, right? And this doesn't even include any future growth of the money supply.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just saying, I cut down every single thing by 5x, and I'm still getting that this thing's going to north of 1 million very, very easily, right? And so I think this stuff's happening. This is the mega trend, and you don't need to be too clever when you have one of these mega trends. You just need to get on board, and that's I think the message. Don't try to say, is it going to get to 70K or 80K tomorrow or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. We're going to a 7-figure Bitcoin price. That's what's happening. And now either you can kind of mentally get on board with that number. And if you do, you shouldn't have a 1% allocation to Bitcoin or 2% or even a 10%. Those numbers are too low, So, fortunately, I'm fortunate that I kind of discovered this, roughly, 5 years ago. But it wasn't like my first, my first introduction to Bitcoin, but I finally got the religion 5 years ago. But, even if you get the religion today, it's like we're still very early in this process. So people are going to look back and they're going to be like, how the hell did you get in Bitcoin in 2024? It's like, what a genius you were to buy at 72,000.
According to popular crypto analyst Plan B, Bitcoin is set to reach $100,000 by December 2024, driven by the rise of Bitcoin ETF. He has outlined a price forecast through 2027, predicting that Bitcoin will climb to $200,000 by January 2025 as more crypto companies return to the US due to favorable regulations. By March 2025, Bitcoin is expected to hit $300,000, with countries like Bhutan and Argentina legalizing it. In April 2025, the US will begin purchasing Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, pushing the price to $400,000, and other nations will follow suit, driving it to $500,000. By June 2025, AI-powered trading is expected to push Bitcoin to $600,000, and a FOMO phase later in the year could send it above $1 million. However, Plan B anticipates a dip to $500,000 in 2026, followed by a bear market, with Bitcoin eventually settling around $200,000 by 2027. Do you agree with Plan B's projections and timeline? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Now, let's return to Fred Krueger for more insights from his perspective.
So it's about $100 trillion total. That's the size of the U.S. TradFi market, right?
Yep.
So now let's sort of say, okay, how much of that 100 trillion, that is, investors like you or me, or also institutions like pension funds, et cetera, own, all these things. 1/3 institutions, 1/3, directed investing, and then 1/3 self-directed, investing. And you ask yourself, of that $100 trillion pie, how much of it is currently allocated to Bitcoin? And your first instinct is to say, well, Bitcoin's $1 trillion, and a little bit more than $1 trillion, 1.4 trillion. So it's 1%, but it's not, because actually that's just the amount of money that's in Bitcoin as a whole, right? But if you look at the ETFs have roughly about 1 million Bitcoin right now, including Grayscale. Okay. And if you throw in, so it's about $70 billion worth of Bitcoin. Let's throw in MSTR, right? And you're getting roughly $100 billion, right? You probably can get 10x without very much effort at all with Bitcoin in the next 10 years. You know what I mean? You're going to get a 10x. So for you to take risks on something else, it's got to be pretty exceptional. I wouldn't throw darts at the wall and buy meme coins at all. Like, no point whatsoever.
Yeah.
Even if you have a little bit better chance than average of succeeding, it's still not worth it, because you've got just this amazing opportunity with Bitcoin. Your allocation between Bitcoin and anything else should be 95% Bitcoin. If you want to play around and do some other stuff, that's fine. Look, I like art, art on Bitcoin. I'm all for it. So I think there are these niche markets, and everything's going to go to Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin could be a platform for a lot of things. But let's be honest, it's won these wars, right? It is won. The biggest barrier is probably legal, right? So the biggest thing is Bitcoin needs to be legal tender, which means that if I buy and sell Bitcoin, there's no tax on the transaction. I don't have to report that as buying some speculative commodity, right? It has to become legal tender, right? In El Salvador, it's legal tender now, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to report. If I buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, doesn't matter, for US dollars, which is their second currency, right?
Yep.
So I think that's the first thing is ultimately, and there's steps along the way. So the first step would be, let's not have any tax requirements for some amount of, let's say, $20,000 worth of Bitcoin a year. You don't even have to report taxes on, That's the first thing, right? And then there's all other legal things like, getting rid of KYC to buy Bitcoin. We don't need to have that. Like, why do we need KYC to buy Bitcoin? If you want to buy Bitcoin, you should just be able to buy Bitcoin. Like, you don't need KYC to go do most of the things you do in your life. And to put this, put your selfie, passport, do this, turn this way, biometrics, and have your every single thing be in a giant computer somewhere is not good, right? So I think we have to go through these phases of institutional adoption, and right now Bitcoin is treated like the enemy by the state. And I think this is an area where I think this election may start to make a difference, right? Because I think people may stop treating it as the enemy and start treating it as this is actually could be really good for the U.S., right? So, and I think if we look at it that way, like, this is really good. We mine most of the Bitcoin in the U.S. We're earlier than most people. If we start adding Bitcoin, we create a reserve of Bitcoin, it'll be good. If we can be pioneers at Bitcoin, if we can be ahead of China at doing this, it'll be good, right? It's sort of like, do you want to be the last person to adopt the internet or AI? No, you don't. You want to be right there at the beginning, right?
Fred Krueger's bold prediction for Bitcoin is nothing short of staggering. With a $100 trillion market at stake, he believes Bitcoin's value will soar to 7 figures, fueled by an influx of cash and assets entering the crypto space. Krueger is convinced the numbers are so massive that the megatrend unfolding is impossible to ignore. While many Bitcoin enthusiasts may be underestimating the scale of this opportunity, the message is clear. The future of Bitcoin is far from small. Whether you're already invested or still contemplating, one thing is certain: this is happening. The real question is not if, but when. For more Daily Dose Crypto News, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.